This podcast has off-color jokes and language people don't like, or some people don't like. We don't understand it, but we keep saying if you don't like bad language, this isn't the podcast for you. Now, if you do like it, it is the podcast for you. So listen up. My name is Rich.
And my name is Ben.
And today we've got our friend Scott Oliphant from Australia. Well, he lives in Australia. And he is here to talk about the Redfield Ratio and other things that happened in the champagne room. This is Reef Beef.
Welcome to Reef Beef. We have a guest. We have Scott Oliphant for like the 20th time.
Yeah, it's getting a bit old.
Yep. My name is Rich.
My name is Ben.
And today on the show, like I said, we have Scott Oliphant, and he's going to ask some questions he submitted to us. And I'm going to tell a couple racy stories.
Racist?
And no, not racist, racy. And this show is brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com. It is powered by PolypLab, and it is also brought to you by Champion Lighting. Scott, what's going on? It's the morning there, correct?
Yeah, it's the morning here. Just I actually had the last 2 days off in lab, so I'm fucking stoked. Just being at home, I moved a bunch of corals over from the frag system over here into the main display. So I spent a couple hours yesterday just cutting down overgrown Goniopora.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so that was good. I actually, so the other guy who's sort of, I call him my mentor, he's a veterinarian, so he does a lot of surgical things. So he was very good on the coral saw yesterday, just getting these micron precision cuts. And not that it fucking matters, but it's like we just had fun with it.
Hey, after you cut them, what are you dipping them in?
We put it in just I assume it's potassium iodide. Actually, I don't know.
Permanganate.
Probably it's not permanganate. It's just an iodine dip.
Maybe like Lugol's or something.
Yeah, essentially it's basically Lugol's. Yeah. So that just for like 15 minutes, and then I have this like parasitic rice snail. It's one question I forgot to ask. So I don't know what species it is, but it seems to only parasitize stomatella snails.
Oh, I like stomatellids.
It's bizarre. They're tiny. They'll be riding on the backs of the stomatella, looking like they're boring into them.
Wow.
Nature is fucked up.
I know. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And like, when I was looking them up, it looks like they seem to attack clams, but I inspected my clams and they're not on them.
Almost like pyramid?
Kind of, yeah. In that similar kind of shape.
Nothing on, you looked underneath and saw nothing?
Yeah.
Under the scoots, they can be a real hard time seeing them. Can't be had.
Yeah, we looked under the scoots. We kind of, without ripping the clam, because it's those abyssal filaments have bonded to the clamic. That I don't want to like rip it off. I don't. Maybe you can rip them off, and I don't know this, but I feel like that would be bad.
Yes.
So
you cut them with a razor blade. So they don't tear out of the clam. But you know what? Because that's the problem, right? When you pull it, they pull out and they damage that whole abyssal apparatus can get damaged by those threads, because those are really attached. They don't let go anywhere, but they're going to let go on the clam side first and be bad.
That sounds fucked up.
But you can get if you need to move a clam that's stuck down, you can get a razor and bring it along the substrate that the clam is attached to and cut them. And that's a better way of moving them if you have to move them, but it's best to just leave them the hell alone.
Okay, these fucking snails, whatever they are, they don't seem to affect the population of stomatellas, meaning the population of the system is kind of constant. So I don't know if they're really that bad, but they're just weird. So I'm like, I don't really want them. So I dipped them in, after everything went through iodine, it went into a mixture of potassium chloride in Coral RX, which basically just irritates and knocks off most things or kills other things as well. So then I don't transfer those into the main display. But I mean, if I do, whatever, it's not.
Wait, did you skip the part? How'd you even find these?
Just observing, just with my eyes.
Looking on the back of a stomatellid?
Yeah, I look at all the little microfauna in there.
Man, maybe they were just Ubering around and you just like come up and like dip them and kill them. It's super fucking rude.
I don't fucking know, man. It's
You're
weird.
like, wait, what are you doing writing on my snail? Death to you. So rude.
I don't know. Could you put some stomatellas in a cage that they can't get out of, but these little snails can get into? Make it make a trap and see.
That would be a great project. Because I'm sure you could, like, size exclusion. I mean, they're different size. You could 3D print something.
Yeah, that would be funny.
What if this is like snail fractals, and then you can look on the back of those snails, and there's even smaller snails riding on that, and then you just go kill those sons of bitches too.
And then, but there's smaller ones on there,
and they're like Lilliputian snails.
Isn't that?
It's fractal snails all the way down.
It's like Horton kills a snail.
Yeah.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
Hey, Richard, we here love saltwateraquarium.com. They have been with us forever, and there is numerous things that we love about saltwateraquarium.com. One thing that I love about them is that they have 3 locations across the continental United States, so they can get off packages to you super fast.
One thing I love about them is their app makes ordering easy. It's almost like a game.
And they have creatures, captive bred creatures from Aura.
And they've also got hard and soft goods for your aquarium.
And anyways, if you love us, you love them. It's a natural fit. Kenneth has his, the owner of saltwateraquarium.com has his grandfather in a closet, and he sends off most of the shipping items, and he's getting worked really hard. So also too, use our URL down below when you order, so they know that you came to them from us. And also in the comment section, when you do order, put some silly stuff in there.
Yeah. So go check them out. We've used saltwateraquarium.com before this show existed because they've got a lot of stuff at good prices and they ship it fast. So we were thrilled when they came on board as our sponsor, and we like them very much. And we like seeing them at shows, and we like ordering from them, and we like messing around with their ordering process by asking you to write strange stories in the notes field when you place an order. So go saltwateraquarium.com, use the link down below, go buy some stuff.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
You had a question about Redfield Ratio.
Oh, that was a bitch. I put that in bold caps lock. So
yeah,
I keep seeing, and I think we talked about it in Discord a little bit. I keep seeing people using the Redfield ratio to maintain ppm concentrations of nitrate and phosphate in their marine aquarium, which I think is probably one of the most fucking absurd things besides the eco aqualizer.
Yeah, this is another one of those fucking things that I've been calling back of the napkin idea, that if you thought about it for 15 more minutes, like for real, you would go, this doesn't make sense.
So, and I think the thing that upsets me is if you go back to if you go to the literature, and that, you know, that body of work is its own field. It's a massive field. Like that original paper, I think, had like 2,000 citations on Google Scholar, and people are talking about it, I guess, in a marine biological context. It's not a simple field. This is really complicated. It's not just we can distill it down to applying it to a fucking glass box in your living room. But I think the glaring easy thing is that that ratio is a molar ratio. It's not a ppm to compound ratio. So when you're talking about going through these ratios or deviating from the ratio, people keep citing the 16:1, or maybe a bit older would be the 20:1. But those were molar ratios. It's not fucking ppm of your bullshit Hanna checker.
What does that convert to in ppm?
I don't know. I'd have to look, but it deviated significantly.
I would imagine.
Yes.
Didn't Redfield ratio is originally for terrestrial plants, correct?
It's for plankton,
It was,
Oh, plankton.
which is the other glaring thing. I don't have plankton.
So it's just
Does that-
automatically assuming that like photosynthetic symbiotes have the same requirements as plankton.
Yes, and they're all different from my understanding of ratios like that. The Chaetomorpha is like 100:1, not 16:1. So it's different depending. Man, people love things that sound simple, right? It's, you know, Jim Telegram was talking about the stories people tell, the stories. And, you know, that's how that, you know, goes. People remember stories. So all these little back of the napkin things I keep talking about, they make a good story, and that's why it sticks in people's heads. But it's not a true story. It's just.
Can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
These all come from, unfortunately, Reef to Reef, because honestly, when you're looking at repositories of information, they have a lot. And so if you're mining for bullshit, that's very good for that. So this is one that I thought was funny, was that phosphate will drop in relation to nitrate.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
okay, fair enough. Hence the Redfield 16:1 ratio. Hence that if your nitrates are at near zero, you will need to dose nitrate to lower phosphate.
My brains.
But that's it. It's like the latter part of that is somewhat true, right? If we're talking about microbial consumption of these
Okay.
compounds, fair enough. But this bullshit up here, it's like, wait, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. And this is a lot. This is like, this kind of logic and thinking is everywhere. And it's even in some companies' websites. It's like pervasively balls deep in the aquarium industry.
It's insane, and that's like so indicative of so much information in our industry. It's like someone saw something on a website and it sounded good and they repeat it, and Joseph Goebbels says it enough times and everyone just accepts it as true.
People think that science drives our trade and industry, and it doesn't.
Crystals do.
Consumerism does.
Oh, totally.
You know, so because we don't know things, and we still don't know things. There is still so much we don't know. It is still more of an art than a science. But the science part has come in with more decimal places recently, and people love decimal places, and it makes them think that things are true, and that's spreading. So, you know, the idea that people and companies need to sell stuff. So if there's a story out there that people are telling, someone's going to sell a product to support that story.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy making.
Hell, some people make up stories so they can sell shit.
Yeah. But I think I am really interested in the idea that you know, people selling something will see something like what just Scott showed us, and go, oh, well, we'll use that in our marketing. And then it just it builds and there's no way to track it down, and there's no way to kill it, is the part that makes me the saddest.
And then I have one more. I took a bunch of screenshots because I got excited about this, and I wanted to do some charts and graphs, but I didn't have time. But
well, thanks for that.
So this original post said, increasing your nitrates will allow the scrubber to do the job correctly and consume the phosphate. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. There's probably some truth to that. If you want to run out of one, you might not be able to consume the other. It's sort of basic.
Yeah, but that's like, okay, never mind.
Limiting factor.
Your levels are out of the Redfield ratio, and that's more than likely why you're seeing a higher PO4 number. Simply dosing them up to around 20 ppm should help the scrubber then to remove the phosphates. So not only is he saying you're out of the ratio, now he's suggesting numbers that you should target.
Just
but then
out of an ass.
Randy says it's misuse. Okay. You're misusing the ratio. these were his original numbers, 0.25 ppm phosphate and nitrate at 4.2 ppm, which is like, okay. And he's basically saying that your N is probably not limiting at 4 ppm. And it's like, that's not, and also, so probably none of this is true. That's the takeaway.
Well,
is that a recent conversation?
So actually, the other thing too, the problem with searching the forums is trying to get a timeline history. I wanted to find, and I needed to go through older forums and start looking at this, but I didn't have time. But that one was, I didn't screenshot the date. Most of them were from 2018 to 2020.
There should be a date. There should be a date on the post.
Does Reef Central exist anymore?
Yes.
And you can like,
no, I don't have. I when I screenshotted it, I clipped the date out.
What an asshole.
Well, people, the Redfield Ratio stuff started becoming popular probably around 2015, 2016. People started misusing it off the bat, and then it just went crazy.
I mean, there's really smart people out there. I just don't, it's just like pulling shit out of your ass. I don't.
Yeah, but who's the really smart people, and how do you know who they are? I didn't see the screen name, but Johnny 7fuck5. I don't know why I'm believing Johnny 7fuck5 on a forum. Who is
Johnny 7fuck5 said it? Come on.
But that's what happens. We can't help it. We ask a question, somebody answers in a way that supports what we want to be, and we go, there it is, it's right. Why would this person be wrong? And it's
confirmation bias.
A lot of people are wrong. It's
and if you're a noob too, like Redfield Ratio sounds cool.
It just sounds so nice. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep this ratio, but people love ratios in the hobby. I mean, it's because it simplifies something,
right?
And they love that, we can control and measure these things. So then that, now I can target, I can work on something. And I think you guys have hammered on about that a shit ton.
Yeah.
But I think at the core of this, the problem I have is you're misusing a scientific concept that has nothing to do with your marine aquarium. Sorry, that was A and B together. But basically, you're misusing. Sorry, you're misusing a scientific concept. This is a molar ratio. Also, you're not measuring organic carbon, so that's just a layer that you fucking missed. And then the other thing is that now you're trying to extrapolate that to a closed, captive ecosystem. It's totally different from the ocean. It's not the ocean.
Yeah, to work like that. And yeah, and when you talk about stuff in the ocean, you're talking about the ocean. And the variability gets basically vanishes because the sample is so big. So your weirdness is still weird, but it doesn't matter because it's the ocean.
And this kind of goes back to what I call the Joe Rogan of reefing. It's basically people trying to science something,
science,
having the science background. And so they're trying to, it's like making almost a sub hobby.
It's, people get mad because then they think you're messing with their, freedom of speech. But it's just like, in these scientific endeavors, it's just, you can't just pull shit out of your ass and then you can, it's just irrelevant.
You're manipulating a complex scientific body of work to fit your very simplistic viewpoint. That's what's happening. And that's the example. Now, let's flip this back. There's probably some truth that keeping higher nitrates to phosphates in the aquarium, maybe. I don't really think I've seen a lot on that, but if one goes to 0, generally people know that's bad. I mean, you were talking about how you dumped in a bunch of GFO into an aquarium and things got pissed. Yeah, you've stripped phosphate out of the water. If that goes to 0, yes, there's limits to these things. And there probably is a, region of ratios that is appropriate for keeping the kind of things that we like to keep. But I don't think it's this fixed thing. And I still think there's a lot more work to be done on proving like how far fucked can the ideal ratio be before life is incompatible with the water chemistry.
My gut tells me that it's really hard to limit nitrate or phosphate in our tanks. It feels to me like the reality of them both being zero or one of them being zero and not being enough for animals to use seems really hard to make happen to me. Now I can see changes happening from quick changes in the numbers, like what Ben did. If you drop anything quick, weird things can happen. But you know, the idea of, and then there's the idea of actually people trying to limit. And it seems like, it feels to me like it's not really practical or possible.
Yeah, I think you can, again, this is all anecdote at this stage, but you know, when you start, again, I think I said it last time we talked, is people boosting to higher levels of phosphate are getting richer colors in a very vague, hand wavy kind of way. So yeah, there's probably certain things that are being limited at lower concentrations.
Okay.
Are they limiting? I don't know. Could you limit them to the detriment of the animals? Yeah, you could chemically strip them out with various kinds of ionic resins or different kinds of binders.
The push to get your numbers so down, first of all, it's numbers. So, but second, it's like, where do you keep your salinity, right? What's the perfect salinity? What's the right salinity? That's a stupid question, right? I mean, it's not a stupid question, but it's a question without a real answer. So a lot of people will run their tanks at 34 because they think between 33 and 35, everything's okay. So you pick one in the middle. So if there's a problem, you bounce back and forth. And this is, I'm not sure why that doesn't apply to other parameters as well. Trying to run your nitrate down so low that you risk stripping it all out so it's limiting seems like a crazy idea to me. And the same with phosphate. I just feel like we go, I don't feel like it. I know we go overboard with numbers, because especially with numbers that we can test for and do something about, right? No one cared about phosphate before GFO came on the market in 2002 because you couldn't do anything about it. So no one cared.
And I think in terms of trying to limit one, it's always been phosphate for algal control. Like that's been, because that comes from like the pool industry, that comes from wastewater management and treatment, that comes from, eutrophication of waterways when we had phosphorus in our laundry detergents before they banned them.
Right.
Everyone would do their washing and the waterways would turn green and you fucked up. And they're like, we can't add phosphates to these laundry detergents. And I think it comes from that kind of idea. But I still, again, I agree with you that I think it's completely wacko to try to limit algal growth by limiting phosphate when you have other animals that like that too. Yeah, if you're keeping an algae only aquarium, then sure, do that. But if you're keeping a reef aquarium, I think it's stupid. And I think the problem is that the Redfield ratio stuff and the phosphate limiting stuff is in company literature. So if it's in company literature, it's gone to the LFSs trying to sell products, which means it's been disseminated to the general public. So until that sort of cycle is broken, it's going to be the same thing on forums. You're going to see the same thing on Facebook every day, people in their echo chambers saying the same shit. And it's like, enough is enough. I'm fucking done.
Well, it's even, people giving sexy names to pods. It's like, you know what? They have names. The pods already have names. We don't need some new common name that you can sell them easier with. You're making the world harder.
Trademarking.
We already have names. We don't need to call it, Billy's Pod or whatever the fuck they're calling it. It's got a name. We all use it already.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
This is a box.
Yes.
This is a box of stuff I got from Champion Lighting Supply.
All I
Champion
got was a
Lighting Supply.
bottle opener.
And in this box were several of the foods that I like. They make the one that I really like a lot is really, really tiny. And it is called, I think this is the one, Invigorate. Yes, Invigorate is one of the foods. It's super, super tiny, 0.2 to 2.0 microns. I'm liking this food a lot. And it comes in different sizes. So I like that a lot as well. What it's got here, I haven't used it yet, and I'm allowed to talk about part of it, but not everything else, is this stuff SeaTac. I haven't used it yet. Have you used it yet, Ben?
I have used it yet.
Did you dig it?
I do. It gets really, really hard.
So there, it gets really hard. I don't think it's available yet, but this is the adhesive that everyone's been talking about since Magna. The only place you can get it when it's available to be gotten is a Champion Lighting Supply. So check them out. Thanks for sponsoring us, Todd.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
Do you have any idea what the phosphate levels were in polluted areas? Because I think it came from the same. It came from that. And you know, we have nitrate and phosphate pouring into the San Francisco Bay here from our sewage treatment problem. But I haven't been able to find, you know, what a eutrophic, you know, what's a eutrophic level of phosphate?
I don't know. I haven't looked that far. I'd have to go through the literature, and it probably is dependent on a lot of other factors, right? So, you know, algae needs iron to grow too.
Yeah.
So iron is one of those things that's, when they talk about the Redfield ratio, some of the, look, I'm not my field. Again, I'm acknowledging this is not my area of expertise. I'm just reading a couple of things with my background. I don't know enough to make a opinion on that literature side, but what kept coming up was, you know, availability of iron and how iron is really limiting for different kinds of algae populations to grow. So that's important too.
In the article that I did with Chris Jury about phosphate, you know, the one that, that we did about phosphate issues, you know, with my tank first being stupid phosphate and trying to figure it out. One of the examples he brought into the picture was some reefs, I think they're in Hawaii, that phase shifted to algae. And you know, what caused that? No, it was the fucking huge ship that grounded right there. And now the iron is available when it wasn't before. So it's the same thing as you were talking about before. It's a super complicated system. We just don't know the ins and outs in it. We could just pick at it here and there and hope to move it forward a little bit every time. But you know, your box of water is crazy complicated. We don't know what the hell is going on in there, and trying to make it one thing or two things is just feels to me to be missing the point. Forest for the trees.
People drag in things from outside of our industry and like, oh yeah, in my swimming pool we do this, this, and this.
Right.
You know, and then you look at that and you're like, but it's not a fucking aquarium.
Now, I don't want to make it seem like any of reaching into these realms is bad, you know. Reaching into all the realms is good, but you gotta do the next couple steps of thought before you jump on a bandwagon.
I remember what I was going to say. Wouldn't it make it so much better, like Scott, with that comment that you put up there? Wouldn't it just be so much better if someone started a sentence with, hey, I'm just spitballing here, instead of just coming out and saying like, oh, your Redfield ratio and limiting factor and blah, blah, blah. As if, you know, it sounds more like saying an authoritative comment.
It's the Joe Rogan effect. It happens everywhere. And I say it all the fucking time. It is people being authoritative without having the fucking background knowledge. And you know, what we do in science all the time is do what you just said, Ben, is we say, hey, I'm unsure, but I've read this and this and this. It's coming out with a bit of being humble in your statements, and language is important. And I think people forget that when you're writing something,
Preface it.
language is so important, and it drives me fucking crazy because it's like you could have easily switched the sentence around and been like, look, all the fucking wieners of reefing are saying that your dingleberry ratio is 1 billion to 2, and my fart tank is away from that. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Can you help me figure it out? I'm trying to, work through this in my thoughts, right? It's just, and instead of saying, no, I read from Jill Billy Dingleberry that it's 16-1 and it's not there, and your tank is gonna explode and catch on fire.
Everyone knows the fart ratio. Come on.
I had one this week that I've been chasing where somebody said at 50 ppm, is that right? 50 ppm of nitrate is above 50 is toxic to corals.
Says who?
Yeah, and I said, oh, do you have a source for that? And then somebody said, well, high nitrate is bad. I said, oh, so no source. And you can guess how it went from there. Apparently I'm an asshole. I shouldn't have been chasing this. I was in a mood, and I was like, but you don't have this. And as it ended, it ended with me going, okay.
But I
don't
think
have the numbers.
that points to that spreadsheet that I kind of half-assed together and sent you. I think it would good to mine the forums, and I mean, who has time for this shit? But it would be good to look through and see how many case reports there are of the very high limits of nitrate, and maybe note some observations of what happens at like 200 ppm. Because what I would guess is that certain species are going to handle it better than others because of biological diversity. But I think 50 ppm is certainly a bit low for like crazy shit happening.
I was like, well, here's at least 2 tanks that used to run at 70. So no.
I mean, can you imagine how much nitrate and phosphate comes out of like sewage turd water that dumps into the ocean? Like, some of that's like almost immeasurable.
Right. Well, that's why I did a half-assed version of trying to find out what the levels were for bad ocean areas that have been polluted. And I couldn't. I looked for about 45 minutes, and it was really hard to find any number at all.
Are you searching through like Google Scholar?
I was looking everywhere I could. First, I started with articles. I figured someone's got to mention it. And then I ended up on Google Scholar, and I think I found someone, but they were in some units that I went, I don't know what this is. And then I lost interest because who the fuck has time to chase that down? I mean, we do because we're idiots, but at some point we start going, I don't care anymore. I am looking up something to show you that you are wrong. This is a failed position in the first place. We shouldn't be doing that. You should be supporting your position instead of me finding information that shows your position doesn't even make sense. It's not the person making the claim should be supplying the evidence, and we are so ass backwards in this hobby with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I want that. What is that? Is that
Nicolas Cage in a banana?
Yeah. Now, Tammy posted this, right? And I got this in the mail in this envelope with nothing else. So this came from Reseda, California. I don't know who sent it to me or why, but I'm in love with it.
I wouldn't question. That's beat off material.
I just don't know where.
Goodbye, Richard. Now, Reef Beef with Scott and Ben.
Woo!
I'm dead. Sweet. I can relax.
We don't have to work with Ben anymore.
We'd prop your decomposing body on a stick so you can be present.
Weekend with Richard.
Die, if there's a fundraiser for me, it should be to encase my body in a block of acrylic, a block of lucite. And I want to be like this, like Han Solo, but I want to be completely in it. And then I want to be used as a dining room table.
I You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
Hey, Richard, what happens when you're trying to take a picture of your aquarium and it's just like all blued out and crazy looking?
It looks stupid when you take the picture.
What do you have that could alleviate those issues?
This is a lens from PolypLab. The kit comes with several different lenses. They have a new one that's almost available, or probably is available by the time this airs. This one is the one I have. They're sending me a new one. Wow, my phone has got goo all over it. I have to figure out what that is. Anyway, what it does is it goes over your phone like that, over the lenses, and it makes it corrects for the blueness and makes it look less horrible. Makes it look less like Windex and more like an actual tank.
So this show is powered by PolypLab, and we love PolypLab. Go check out their stuff.
Yeah.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
I blame
Scott,
Ben.
you wanted me to tell you a couple stories.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So I have to be careful because, you know, if you do what I do, I can't just be talking about people. So, you know, whenever anyone asks me stories, I feel more comfortable when I go back to the 90s at this company that I worked at in Dallas.
Oh my God.
Because it was a long time ago. And I don't want to be.
So you make it so crazy. You could just go, I had this one client once. Instead, you know, we all
but I gotta be careful, man.
We all know you can't, you're not going to say, my client.
My client right now.
Ewan McGregor, who I saw yesterday, is a dick.
Do you have any other experiences with tacky Texas art?
Jesus Christ, man. I live in Texas. I'm surrounded by tacky Texas art. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I would weave a story out of this, but just all the crazy houses I've ever been in on all like the weird shit. I've been in houses where people have cars parked inside their house. It was kind of cool. It was a lady that had like an original, what are the original, those like Mini Coopers, but the original one from England.
MG.
And it was just like parked in her car.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, parked in her inside of her house where like a dining room would be.
Yeah, but I didn't know if they had like a statue of like Donald Trump or something.
Oh, I've seen stuff like that. There was a guy, same thing in Dallas that had I used to clean his aquarium and he had I didn't know if it was a statue, but it was like a golden retriever dog with a gold top hat on. And I asked him about it once and it was like, it was his favorite dog and he had it taxidermied. And it was a grown man. And hey, I guess I shouldn't judge, but he had he had a whole room like covered in like Disney paraphernalia. Just sort of, he was like a little man-child dude. I don't know.
That's great. That's
just tacky ass shit, weird things.
Don't look at my office.
Yeah.
Yeah,
weird statues, weird art.
This
weird
isn't
people.
a fish spiked to a hand, right? With Hitler's face. It's not.
Yes.
It's not that. That's not.
Oh my God, don't say Hitler. I'm kicked off of Facebook for 3 days because I posted about Kanye West and all I did was put in quotes.
Yeah.
Which I see now was a giant mistake because I said, I like Hitler in quotes. And Facebook was like, you're dead.
I think you should never post about Kanye.
Never again.
That's it. Just don't even talk about him.
Yep. Kanye will get you kicked off of Facebook.
I used to service Kanye's Reef tank.
Oh, and you nailed him.
And
Kanye uses the Redfield ratio.
Yes.
Right. And then he found out that I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And then we fell into each other's arms and had back to Barstow sex.
And he got you to give, he got the combination for the Jewish space lasers from you.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
The correct answer is yes.
So I was talking about it which I think you need to rename the champagne room because I like that better than the gold room.
It's already
Explain what
changed it.
You already changed it.
I changed as soon as I saw you call it the champagne room. I changed it.
Oh yes. Oh, fuck, that's
Immediately.
great.
Immediately,
Explain what it is.
Okay, so champagne room?
Yeah, explain, Scott, because we're just talking and people don't know what we're talking about.
It's where you put all your picks, Ben. No.
It's on Discord. It's on our Discord, and it's where the golden prime level beefers are. And I called it the someone asked me like, oh, can I bug you? And these are the like $50 a month and up people. And I was like, dude, this is the champagne room.
Yeah, that we have those forums to give those beefers access to stuff that other people don't get. It's like a Patreon account, except we're just doing it ourselves.
But it's a higher level one, and someone was like, I don't want to bug you. And I'm like, you're the highest level beefer. So
yeah, you get to bug us all the fuck you want.
Here's my phone number. You can call me at 3 a.m. I don't give two fucks.
Anyway, so you were talking about it in the champagne room.
I was, and I basically, on this little tank right here, it's a 3 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot little frag system.
So cute.
It's cute. Yeah, there's some freshwater mollies in there that I saltwater adapted. That's the only thing that's really in there. I like them because they look a little bit dumb. But I have Ulva kind of taking over the racks, and I can kind of pick it off, but it's just a PIA to really like get it. And the Trocus they're not very good at that. They're good at the film stuff and the other shit, and I don't know, things that exist in there. But I'm like, it's too small, I think, for a tang, unless I found a baby tang and rehomed it. The rabbit fish idea was one, but trying to find a small one, at least locally, is really fucking hard. They're usually massive when they come in. But I'm wondering, like, so Pete and Sue has suggested a sea hare, but I do not know anything about them at all. So I'm asking.
Richard hates them.
No, I love them.
Seraph with a C. Do you have access to Seraph snails?
No, I don't believe so.
I think Ulva, in my experience, has been one that you need to fish for.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've found. But I mean, what about sea hares? Like, what are people like when they take care of them? Like, what is their disposition? What does a sea hare do?
A sea hare hides and moves around and eats constantly, and then dies because no one gives it enough food.
Okay.
Right? You can give it algae pellets too, but you got to give it more algae pellets than you would think. I've been thinking about herbivores a lot, right? Herbivores eat a lot. They eat a lot. They're eating all the time. I think they need access to food way more than, like a planktonivore fish. I don't even think that's a word, but I just said it. They gotta eat. So, I mean, if you like sea hares, you could try one and see if it eats it, and then just be prepared to go collect Ulva for it.
There's that smaller one, Elysia.
No, that won't eat. No, that one won't touch it. It's got the wrong kind of radula. It's too small.
Okay.
For Ulva, you need something that's really gonna chomp at it. So some kind of a plesius sounds right to me. What kind of urchins do you have?
Sorry, let's go back to Sarah. I think we do. I just don't. My snail knowledge is not.
What kind of urchin can you get?
I actually looked around too, and they're really big ones. That's all I've seen available. Collector urchins, yeah, but like in a frag system, I think that'd just be a nightmare.
Yeah. So you've got a problem that's pretty specific, and the answers. It's just hard to. I think, Scott, for this one, actually, I think unless you can find a fish and try to rehome it when it gets too big, which you're one of the you're somebody I think would be okay with that, and would actually do it. You'll just have to try what you've got there and see if you can find something that snacks on it.
Like a small Tamini tang?
That's what I was thinking, actually, is if I can find one. You just getting livestock in Australia is much more difficult than Merca.
Which is just go out and catch your own fish.
Wrong ocean.
Oh,
Wrong
that's right.
temperature.
That's right.
Yeah. People, I think someone has done a cool water South Aussie reef before locally. I've heard tales of this, but I haven't been able to find who the person was. You have to chill the water actively.
You could put a sepia opima in it. How close are you to Waiala? Is that how it's even pronounced?
I don't know. I'm not that Aussie.
Oh,
that's
It's
because I think we.
it's spelled in some weird
Yeah.
Aussie way.
Yeah,
stinking
fucking
expert.
far. If in Queensland,
It's not in Queensland.
there's one in South Australia too. There's a while.
That's the one.
Oh,
Wow.
Wyola. Why? What do you know about Wyola?
That's where the giant cuttlefish are.
Oh, fuck. Well, why don't you guys come down, Reef Beef road trip? We can go see some fucking cuttlefish in South fucking Australia.
It's on the list.
It's so easy. We'll just walk right over.
Yeah, okay, that's about 5 hours away, 4.5.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
Hey, beefers, I want to get real with you for a second.
Let's be serious.
Take off all the bullshit, right? Make my
Come on.
hair not look insane. Okay.
Get in close.
Listen, beefers, you fucking rock, right? So we started this thing because we thought we had some interesting things to say and some fun ways to say it. And it looks like we do. The Discord that we started now is basically this show continues now in discussion on the Discord. And while we're still trying to figure out what that is, the community of people who are talking is really, really wonderful. And the support that we get from you guys is really wonderful. So I know we always talk about smash like and become a member and buy us a coffee and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to say any of that today. I just want to say thank you for supporting us. We super appreciate it, and it makes a difference. So thank you.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
So another thing I was talking to people about was somebody was insisting to me that the place, first of all, they said they did an ICP test and their alkalinity was X. And I said, ICP doesn't test alkalinity.
No.
Somebody else came back in and said, oh, it depends on where it's from. And I went, no, it doesn't depend on where it's from. It can't. It's not how the machine works. And they said,
Yeah.
but here they give me an alkalinity number. And I said, well, that doesn't mean that they're not doing it. They're doing it with the titration. And
Yeah.
And they're also giving you a number to 2 decimal places, which seems insane for me for DKH.
Yeah.
And they said, well, no, it's a lab. It's a professional lab because they're going to 2 decimal places. And I went, I don't think I've ever seen anything but math give you 2 decimal places of DKH. I don't think the resolution to test to 2 decimal places exists.
It's almost like a marketing ploy.
It's like there's a couple of principles called limit of detection and limit of quantitation. That's for ultra low levels, being like it's 0.004 ppm, and it's like that might be at the limit of detection, but not at the limit of quantitation. But basically, you can't measure those ultra small things accurately, but you can detect that they're there. So that's one principle. Going to 2 decimal places on the laboratory instrument is possible, but it's way harder than even some of the manufacturers of these devices say. So like if we go to a laboratory pH probe, like the one I have in the lab, which is, it's a $900 probe with like $1,000 meter attached to it. And that's kind of entry level.
Right.
I talked to an expert, one of their, she's basically a sales rep, but also she has a PhD. So a lot of the sales reps of these companies also have PhDs. So generally you can, some of them are crazy. Some of them are actually good at delivering knowledge on the product. But the short story is that she said in, the most kind of ideal conditions, you're going to be lucky with this meter to get, 0.05 pH accuracy. And I'm like, that's actually a lot worse than I had anticipated, but the meter can read to 0.001 of a pH unit. It shouldn't really even exist on the meter. This happens with balances and scales as well.
Right. So my thought is that, first of all, if it was a professional grade lab, you wouldn't be getting results in DKH, number one.
No, it would probably be like milliequivalents per liter.
Milliequivalents. And I think if you do the math with milliequivalents, you'll get decimals. So I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I can't believe there's a titration test that can accurately parse, that fineness.
It's up to the experimentalist to know when to report how many values. So like, that's like, that could be a whole episode. So I'm trying to think of how to distill this down. Like, you should know, like, okay, I have a laboratory pH meter. It goes to the, thousandths of a decimal place. I'm not reporting that in literature. You know what I'm reporting in literature when we publish a couple of papers is the nearest 10th.
Right.
Even I could get higher resolution. I'm like, I know that that's meaningless because air propagation through, the air of the instrument on the day, the air of you propagate error through every analysis, and that basically contaminates your final result.
Yeah.
But you should know that. And if I saw in a journal that they said, the pH of my medium was 8.003, I'd be like, you're a fucking crackhead, and that's not real, and you be lucky. You should just report it to the nearest 10th of a decimal place like everybody else.
I think there's no way we're gonna get this to happen. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think, I for a while I was bummed about it, and I was like, oh well, we'll just, I'm not even gonna try anymore. And but now I kind of think, well, as long as some people are talking about it, at least it's being talked about. But go ahead.
I think that Google Sheets we have going, if we can get that better, we can put, like, I'd be happy to post that on like a local forum and, post it on a couple of pages. And, I think that would help a lot.
I think if we can make it anything that we think is robust in any way, and it doesn't have to be that robust, we could put it anywhere. It doesn't have to just be shared around. We could publish it in a hobby mag or something, or somewhere, and get it out. Because it seems like it, and write up about, what are we talking about? We're talking about understanding the practicalities of testing, right? That's all we're talking about.
But
exactly.
Well, maybe you and I should write a skeptical reef keeping article about it. We could do that.
But therein,
I'm sorry. Or you could just write it. This is all your idea, and you are quite capable. I don't have to be attached to everything.
It's just time right now.
Therein lies the problem of our hobby, in that if you do that sort of tomfoolery in a scientific journal, they call each other out. If you do that in the aquarium industry, I was about to say more than half of the people are like, wow. And it's like, but if you're another person that runs that equipment and stuff, and is in a lab, and you're like, no, bullshit, dude, blah, 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 blah. But regular hobbyists are like, oh, cool, man, he measured it to 2 decimal points, so that's for sure is good.
At the same time, I feel bad because look how long it's taken. I've been doing this for 30 or 40 years, since 1832, when Ben was banging people that in his
had syphilis
in the old stagecoach.
Ye old aquariums. It's taken me so long to get around the idea that, I'm back to now that all testing sucks. All testing sucks. You should squint at all testing. All about testing is in that lab with that instrument, with that person, that's what they got. And everyone kind of knows that there's a big error bar there. Everyone who reads those things knows it, but the general population doesn't. And they, why should they?
Then you get people that post on forums this absolutist crap.
See, I don't know.
They know based on these numbers.
But I think one thing that would really help testing, and I've tried to push this locally, is reference standards. And they even make a couple of commercial ones, like you're having a testing problem, test your reference standard. So like, I was playing around with this. I had some issues with the Mastertronic. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I just made my own reference standard, just made it in the lab, and I made a 60 ppm nitrate standard. And the HANA checker was close to that. It was like 58, 57 ppm. And I'm like, that is great. I was expecting the Hannah checker to be within 15 ppm of it, and I would have been happy. That's my expectation. I think people, have a fucking panic attack over half a ppm, and it's like, whoa, it's not that good. And when I got that close on repetitive measurements, I'm like, shit, like this little fucking pink egg thing is a lot better than I thought it would be for a standard. And I use that standard in the Mastertronic. It was like 10 ppm off. I'm like, great. Is it consistent? It's consistent, easy. I can, calibrate and offset and just kind of know in my head, here's the difference between these two if I have to do a manual versus that.
Yeah, well,
It's
but
those principles.
it's so hard to get that. I don't know how, I think we just keep doing and not really worrying about, does everybody get it and jump on that bandwagon? Because they're not. I mean, people don't care. And like you said, it's in industry literature. All the bad stuff is shows up in a vetting process because it's out there on places that should vet their stuff before they publish it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not. So, and then I don't know about forums, man. I don't know about forums.
I think they're great for mining information. I use it all the time to say how many, oh, look, there's 50 reports of this. Okay,
Right.
I can do it. Right. There's power there. And if we had like a brief AI, it can process all that information and
Right.
do
That's
things
what
for us.
I did a little bit of that, trying to just find how many people were on forums for an article I wrote. And I had to just guess and be generous. Boy, shouldn't Python be able to scrub everything for us like that? We probably just need an AI.
Sure, someone, I wish I was computationally.
Hey, if there's somebody listening or watching who's good at that stuff, let us know. We got a bunch of things we would like the numbers for. Now, of course, numbers coming from forums, that's not definitive at all. That's, the big error bar of that is we took this from forums, so it's all self-reported stuff. It's not.
Yeah, but it's all about the kind of question you're asking, right? And I think like that's where it's powerful. I think when you're trying to compare to things, it's going to be really difficult. But when you're seeing the presence of, that's where the power could come in something like that.
Sure.
Case reports of something happening. That's where it's like, But I think, back to the testing thing, get yourself a reference standard. But the thing is, anybody listening to me saying this probably knows this shit. It's the people who don't not really paying attention. They're not going to go pick one up. And it's like,
they don't, they're struggling with keeping their animals alive, and they're trying to do what people are telling them is the thing they're supposed to do. It's just nutty. And, trying to get people to get reference solution. And then, of course, how do you know your reference solution is good?
Well, that's a good question. The other thing too is people suck at testing and cleanliness. So I went to another reefer's home and I was like, so have you done any testing? He's like, oh, I have these checkers over here. And I looked at them and the vials were still filled with old dirty water, and they were clearly mucked up and heavily scratched. And I'm like, no one's taking the time to educate you how to clean or maintain your things. And so that's one massive other problem, is educating people on how to keep things tidy, clean, neat, and functioning appropriately. But I don't know. I mean, that took a fucking, I'm in my 4th fucking degree. So maybe it's impossible and we should just give up now.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think we should give up, but I think we should let go of the idea that we are somehow going to flip the light switch for people. You know what I mean? They're just, this is stuff that you only kind of absorb by doing it over and over again and thinking about it. It's not an entry-level deal.
It's book time. It's book time. It's book time. It's time for books.
And why am I here for book time?
You don't have to be here.
We will eject you.
No, it's fine. I'll be here for book time. I got some books.
Grab a book.
Grab a book.
It better not be mine.
Okay, my
Oh.
book,
It's basic.
that's all right. My book is not a book because last time I did Coral Magazine, this time I'm doing a specific set of Reef's magazine, which is the skeptical reef keeping articles. I know we talk about them all the time, and there's a bunch of information in there, and it there's like 14 of those articles. We'll put the link down here, at Reef's magazine. They all come up in one page, and they talk about critical thinking and how to navigate through buying stuff and how to evaluate claims and all kinds of stuff. So I bring those up not because I wrote them, but because we reference them a lot, and they exist, and I'm really proud of them. So that's my book time.
Scott, your turn.
It's Scott's turn for book
Scott's turn
time.
for
Oh, but this, everyone knows this. I mean, I just like this. I had to search a lot to find a printed copy of this because I wanted a physical one.
The Reef Aquarium by DeBleek and Sprung. And which volume is that?
That's the volume uno.
Yes, that's the good volume. Skip volume 2 unless you like it. Volume 3 is practically useful again. 2 is pretty fun, but if you were buying them to glean information, 1, 3, and then 2.
I just think it's great. It's just a fun read. It's fun. The perspective of the era is also interesting. The information on husbandry is, I think, pretty useful. The animal information is useful.
Little known reef beef fact, that book is seriously why I am sitting here.
That book changed everything. When I got back into the hobby in like 2000 or whenever it was, that book existed, and it didn't exist when I got out of it. And it was like, oh, we have a textbook? Holy crap. And mine is all, the cover is coming off and there's highlight, I highlighted the whole thing, and it's a great book. It was really, really useful to have, because you go, I want to, wow, how much, I can tell you a funny story. We were doing carbon dosing. Matt Wendell was doing carbon dosing at the Academy at Steinhardt. And we were in a meeting, and he talked about how much he was dosing. And Charles Delbay goes, well, where'd you get that number from? And Matt goes, your book. And I thought that was freaking awesome. It's in your book. That's why we're using that number.
It's in your book. My book is awesome because it's this.
Oh, that's a good book.
Starfish and Sea Urchins. Richard, do you know that it's a good book?
Yes.
Do you know who this guy is?
I am more important than the starfish. I like their kin.
Dr. Nelson Herwig. Actually, he wasn't a doctor. Well, it's not fair. It was not in that. This is a former boss of mine.
From Eco
He was
Aqualizer?
No, he was the curator of fishes at the Houston Zoo. He was my boss's boss. I used to talk to him all the time. Nelson Herwig. It's a pretty old book. And it's pretty simplistic, short, and, it's old information. But here's the other cool side note to it. I grew up reading Fama magazine.
Yeah.
And ever since, this one's from 2002, ever since I had read these, I'd read them cover to cover, and I would always, I'd look at everything in the damn book, and I'd always see this book. And it never occurred to me until I started in 2001 at the zoo. And then I was talking to this guy, and he was like, yeah, I wrote a book on starfish. And then he showed it to me, and I was like, what the fuck? I knew the book. And then I went and ordered it, but it was in the early 2000s. So I still used like the old form that they had. I actually had to clip it, cut it, and put it in an envelope and put a check in there. Old school, and I sent it off by horse and buggy to get it. But it's just really cool. It's a book by a former boss of mine.
Very cool.
Out of focus. I don't know. I ought to read it again, because I don't know how.
Are the pages stuck together?
Yeah, especially on page 69. No, but I don't know how relevant the info is anymore. But you can look at it with your eyeballs if you want to. That's all.
Scott, thank you for coming on the show. It's always great when you're on. We love talking to you, and thank you for supporting us and for saying good things. We have more things to talk about with you next time because we didn't get to everything. So thank you so much, Scott. Thank you, Ben, and thanks to all the beefers who make our beefing possible. And thank you to our sponsors, saltwateraquarium.com, PolypLab, and Champion Life.
This show is hosted by Richard Ross and Ben Johnson, produced by Ben Johnson and Snowman, edited and directed by Snowman. Thanks to Prime and Gold level beefers Corey, Rich P, Scott C, Ryan H, Scott O, and Pedro.
Today on Reef Beef. Okay, great. Now do it as fast as you can.
This show is hosted by Richard Ross and Ben Johnson, produced by Ben Johnson and Snowman, edited and directed by Snowman. Thanks to Prime and Gold level beefers Corey, Rich P, Scott C, Ryan H, Scott O, and Pedro.
Dig it. I can't wait to see if Snowman puts any of that in, or if that's all one blooper, or
yeah, he'll just quit.
I'm saying because Snowman loves it when we make mouth sounds. Can you do diarrhea out of your mouth?
Oh my god, I can't fucking. I can't win for winning.
You made the fucking fart noise out of your mouth. What do you want?
I know. I was trying
Scott
to start.
and I were talking, and you went blah.
That's how I start all my shows.
Admit.
Let him in.
Admit him. Admit him to the torture.
Oh, I'm gonna start my timer.
Torture.
Start your timer.
Stop.
Are we on a timed situation?
Torture. Oh, way to get the holiday spirits. Oh, you got a cat. Never mind. You win
Mr.
everything.
Whiskers.
You win everything. Kitty, kitty.
She's actually the gold beefer. I'm just standing in for her.
Aw. Kitty. So what's the problem? The switch on the microphone, you have to turn it on for the microphone to work?
Well, no, it can either go down or up. In either position, it's got that blue light that it's like, I'm on. So if it's down, then you can't hear me. And if it's up, you can hear me. I just need to remember that the little toggle needs to stay in the upward position. Because I'll look at it and it's like, well, the blue light's there.
Mine's got a red light. And
Oh, it does?
My switch says on off on it.
I have the doofus
It doesn't
edition.
say on off on it?
Nope.
Okay, then I can't make fun of you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was close.
Alexa, turn on focus light. Oh, that's much better. Okay.
What's up, fellas? Oh, no one jump up right away.
Well, we're scared you're gonna make mouth fart noises.
I did one burp and now I'm like chastised forever.
Yeah, no more the mouth queefs.
This is Reef Beef. It's got language in it. See ya.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to anything you just said.
You were staring right at me.
Yeah, that's but I swear to God, I didn't hear anything you just said.
You
but I don't
son of
believe
a
in God.
bitch.
I say that again. I'm really sorry. I just totally took a journey.
You motherfucker. That's my job.
Well, welcome to working with you.
Yeah. Boy, this sucks. This sucks.
I know, right? Oh, look at my hair. Ooh, I've been here for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
No,
tired.
when you're
Oh, fuck.
all right, fuck that. Next. You fucking snail killer.
I know.
What else? I have to
Got
go to the-
Oliphant, snail killer.
I didn't
You were-
want them to display.
This show sometimes has adult language in it. And if that's not your thing, just be warned, maybe listen to headphones. So here we go.
Here we go.
You're definitely someone.
To my mom and dad.
You're the sexiest aquarium maintenance man that I've ever seen.
There's probably some out there. They just don't like attention like I do.
You guys all do porn together. People pay money.
Ugh.
They see the nasty ones with their pants falling off.
Yeah.
I see. We
Yeah.
all the aquarium maintenance men that I know. It's like their ass crack is showing. It's like a furry ass while they're like scooping
Yeah, I
shit
mean,
out of an
aquarium
aquarium.
maintenance people are like stoned plumbers.
Yeah,
but and that's
oh, go ahead, Ben, because you know, why should I get a word in?
no, I'm just gonna say real, just putting over a layer of you bunch of motherfuckers. No, putting over a layer of things that you think that you see in your walk of life. Y'all are aliens.
We are.
We've come to inspect your butthole.
We are Daft Reef.
Butthole inspectors. All right, we have, just like Fonzie jumping over the cars, we have jumped the shark.
Where's my copy of Back to Barstow?
I'm trying still.
We'll just recreate it.
I think I'm going to, I'll put it on the list and try it again. Oh, you should leave Australia.
Well, there's that. Except I like the whole, guns aren't allowed and we have a functioning democracy.
Oh, that's like Texas, though. You can move to Texas. It's pretty much the same.
No, it's the opposite.
It's
No,
antithetical.
Pretty much the same. You can
But
move,
some of y'all sort of act like rednecks, though.
you move to Houston, and then you and Ben could drive around and
We can shoot at each other.
stop people with guns. Now that Ben is gone, I want to say that Ben is the heart of this show. Without Ben, there'd be no show. He does all the work and he makes all the phone calls. So thank you, Ben.